The average Christian confuses the law of rebirth with what he calls the transmigration of souls, and frequently believes that the law of rebirth signifies the passing of human beings into the bodies of animals or of lower forms of life. Such is by no means the case. The theory of reincarnation, so familiar to all my readers, is becoming increasingly popular in the Occident. It has always been accepted, though with many foolish additions and interpretations, in the Orient. This teaching has been as much distorted as have the teachings of the Christ or the Buddha or Sri Krishna by their narrow-minded and mentally limited theologians. The basic facts of a spiritual origin, of a descent into matter, of an ascent through the medium of constant incarnations in form until those forms are perfect expressions of the indwelling spiritual consciousness, and of a series of initiations at the close of the cycle of incarnation, are being more readily accepted and acknowledged than ever before. Such are the major solutions of the problems of immortality and of the persistence of the human soul. They aim to answer the eternal questioning of the human heart as to whence, why, whither and where. The occultists of the world, through the theosophical societies and other occult bodies, so-called, have greatly damaged the presentation of the truth anent reincarnation through the unnecessary, unimportant, inaccurate, and purely speculative details which they give out as truths anent the processes of death and the circumstances of man after death. An instance of this inaccurate and foolish attempt to throw light upon the theory of rebirth can be seen in the time limits imposed upon departed human souls between incarnations on the physical plane and the return to physical rebirth. So many years of absence are proclaimed, dependent upon the age of the departed soul and its place upon the ladder of evolution. If, we are told, the soul is very advanced, absence from the physical plane is prolonged, whereas the reverse is the case. Advanced souls and those whose intellectual capacity is rapidly developing come back with great rapidity, owing to their sensitive response to the pull of obligations, interests, and responsibilities already established upon the physical plane. The use of the term immortality infers timelessness, and teaches that this timelessness exists for that which is not perishable or conditioned by time. This is a statement requiring careful consideration. Man reincarnates under no time urge. He incarnates under the demands of karmic liability, under the pull of that which he, as a soul, has initiated, and because of a sensed need to fulfill instituted obligations. He incarnates also from a sense of responsibility, and to meet requirements which an earlier breaking of the laws governing right human relations have imposed upon him. When these requirements, soul necessities, experiences, and responsibilities have all been met, he enters permanently into the clear cold light of love and life, and no longer needs, as far as he himself is concerned, the nursery stage of soul experience on earth. He is free from karmic impositions in the three worlds, but is still under the impulse of karmic necessity which exacts from him the last possible ounce of service that he is in a position to render to those still under the law of karmic liability. Psychology has to recognize eventually, 1. The fact of the soul, the integrating agent, the self. 2. The law of opportunity or rebirth. 3. The nature of the inner structure of man and its relation to the outer tangible form. It is interesting to note that practically all the teaching given anent rebirth or reincarnation has emphasized the material phenomenal side, though there has always been a more or less casual reference to the spiritual and mental gains acquired in the school of life upon this planet, from incarnation to incarnation. The true nature of the unfolding awarenesses and the growth in the inner consciousness of the true man have been little noted. The gain of each life in added grasp of the mechanism of contact, and the result of increased sensitivity to the environment, which are the only values with which the self concerns itself, are seldom, if ever, stressed. Details of living conditions, statements about possible material situations, descriptions of places, clothes, and of personality human relations are imaginatively displayed, and the recovery of past incarnations has usually been the so-called recovery of dramatic episodes which feed the innate sense of individuality of the reincarnating man, and usually feed his vanity as well. This curious presentation has been due to several things. First of all, to the fact that the world of illusion is the dominating factor as yet in the lives of the best of men. Secondly, that the point in evolution has been such that the writer or speaker has not been able to view the life cycle from the angle of the soul, detached and undiluted, for had he done so, the material phenomenal descriptions would have been omitted and probably not even perceived, and only the values spiritual and mental, and those matters which concern the group interior life, would have been emphasized. The methods used to present this age-old doctrine of rebirth, and the false emphasis laid upon the form aspect to the exclusion of the soul values, have brought about a bad reaction to the whole subject in the minds of intelligent people and of the scientific investigator. Yet, in spite of this, real good has been accomplished, for the whole theory has been seeping steadily into the racial consciousness, becoming an integral part of it and, therefore, moving on to popular and finally scientific recognition. In themselves, rebirth and reincarnation are misleading terms, and cyclic impulsion, intelligent purposeful repetition, and conscious in-breathing and out-breathing would describe more accurately this cosmic process. Races incarnate, disappear and reincarnate, and so do all lives in form. Reincarnation or cyclic activity lies behind all phenomenal activity and appearance. It is an aspect of the pulsating life of deity. It is the breathing out and the breathing in of the process of divine existence and manifestation. Esoterically speaking, the point of greatest interest lies in the fact that it is group rebirth which is taking place all the time, and that the incarnation of the individual is only incidental to this greater happening. This has been largely ignored or forgotten because of the intense and selfish interest in personal experience and living, evidenced in the speculative details anent individual return given in the current so-called occult books, most of which are largely inaccurate and certainly unimportant. An intelligent understanding of the plan is needed before the real truth anent reincarnation can emerge with clarity in the public consciousness. Groups of souls come into incarnation cyclically and together in order to further the plan and permit that interplay to proceed between spirit and matter which makes manifestation possible and which extends the working out of the divine ideas as they exist in the mind of God. Only a few things can be said with accuracy about it, and these few warrant no contradiction. 1. The law of rebirth is a great natural law upon our planet. 2. It is a process, instituted and carried forward under the law of evolution. 3. It is closely related to, and conditioned by, the law of cause and effect. 4. It is a process of progressive development, enabling men to move forward from the grossest forms of unthinking materialism to a spiritual perfection and an intelligent perception, which will enable a man to become a member of the kingdom of God. 5. It accounts for the differences among men in circumstances and attitudes of life. 6. It is the expression of the will aspect of the soul, and is not the result of any form decision. It is the soul in all forms which reincarnates, choosing and building suitable physical, emotional and mental vehicles, through which to learn the next needed lessons. 7. The law of rebirth, as far as humanity is concerned, comes into activity upon the soul plane. Incarnation is motivated and directed from the soul level, upon the mental plane. 8. Souls incarnate in groups, cyclically, under the law and in order to achieve right relations with God and their fellow men. 9. Progressive unfoldment, under the law of rebirth, is largely conditioned by the mental principle, for as man thinketh in his heart, so is he. 10. Under the law of rebirth, man slowly develops mind, then mind begins to control the feeling, emotional nature, and finally reveals the soul and its nature and environment to man. 11. At that point in his development, the man begins to tread the path of return and orients himself gradually after many lives, to the kingdom of God. 12. When through developed mentality, wisdom, practical service, and understanding a man has learned to ask nothing for the separated self, he then renounces desire for life in the three world, and is freed from the law of rebirth. 13. He is now group conscious, is aware of his soul group, and of the soul in all forms, and has attained as Christ had requested a stage of Christ-like perfection. Beyond this generalization, no intelligent person will attempt to go. Our knowledge will become more true and realistic. We shall know that we are eternally related to the souls of all men, and that we have a definite relationship to those who reincarnate with us, who are learning with us the same lessons, and who are experiencing and experimenting with us.